Hellfire and the Fall of Empire by Jim Webster. This is the Hippopolitan Kingdom. Recently cut loose. Recently, it's been like 12, 15 years. They just left us. They just abandoned us. The Kaizen Empire. Fending for ourselves. Earlier, it's the year 2955. Look, I've been doing this long enough. We go back and we watch the old episodes. I don't want to spend 10 minutes getting y'all caught up here on what's going on. Okay, we had a little rebellion, and now we've got these Machans are trying to take Pella. They're trying to take this city from us. If Pella falls, they'll probably take Skythopolis too. We don't want that. In April of this year, we liberated Pella. It was the last holdout in a civil war. And so now we have to deal with the fallout of that. And it looks a little something like this. So I have opted for kind of a hybrid, very similar to what we did last time. Rather than doing a full tabletop miniature war game, those are fun, but I don't have any modern day figures that would be suitable for this type of battle. And rather than asking like a limited language model, I'm not fooled into calling it an AI. Don't you be fooled either. Rather than rolling a percentile, I've opted for a little bit of a hybrid. I'm going to diagram this out. So we'll take a look. The King Wargamius III has dispatched the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Battalion to defend the frontier against Zur and the Machan Armada. Where does the terrain come from? Well, I did what I usually do in these cases. When I don't have any of the local terrain, I use old Bill Webster's Solo Wargaming Guide. Throw down some cards on the table, and I'm not going to go through it. We've seen this many, many times, and it's in here somewhere. There's a chart, and all the black cards are features, and the kind of card that you draw is going to tell you what kind of feature you have. So what do I have? Well, I got a couple of hills, I got a couple of light woods, and this is heavy woods. The heavy woods are no-go zones. They're not safe. Likewise, the hills slow things down, but they're very defensible. So I put down here, notice that I've got 2 units of infantry over here in the 2nd. The 1st and 3rd have 3. The 2nd only has 2. That's because when we liberated Pella, one of our companies of infantry took heavy casualties. They were the tip of the spear. Remember, these guys don't have a whole lot of fighting experience. They're not great, so they didn't do so well. But now this is their 2nd major battle of the campaign. You can imagine there's probably some skirmishing going on, right, with kind of the smaller outlying units. This is the big battle. We finally managed to put ourselves in a position where both we and the Machans can have a definitive fight. So the 1st, you will notice, has 3 companies of infantry. They've got a company. This little thing here, this is as near as I could find that was like the nearest thing to an electronic countermeasure. So we have counter battery fire. We have an engineering company, and then here's medium tanks. I put my 2 artillery kind of in the middle. They can lend fire support in either direction. We're on the defensive, so we're giving up a little bit of the initiative. I assume our engineers have prepared like fire pits, right, for our guys. We've had time to kind of dig in and get entrenched, and we're ready to go. So I have 2 guys anchoring my left flank. I've got 3 guys up here on the north. My counter battery fire is up on the hill, and I've got the heavy tanks in the center, so they can go either way. So who's going to be attacking us? Well, the Machans. Didn't you hear me the first time? And I just made a little note here. We've got 4 infantry, 1 mounted unit, and 1 artillery. And you'll see some little numbers down here, right? So I've got 4. Well, where do the infantry go? I don't know where they're going to start from. I don't know what their plan of attack is. I'm going to rely on dice to figure out how this is going to work. Why am I not using one of Jim's other games? There really isn't one for this kind of sweet spot of 3 battalions, the company level. This would work fine if you used Hellfire itself. It's designed for this kind of fight. Each of these battalions will have 3 maneuver groups of anywhere from 4 to 10 stands. But, I mean, at 10 stands, that means I need 90 stands of infantry. I don't got it, Chief. So we're going to go with this. So what am I going to do here? Well, notice that I've got an A1. And I have an A, where's my other A? A2 right here. So artillery is either going to be protected behind the hill, or they roll up behind these greens. And with only 4 infantry, 4 to 9, I mean, we outnumber these guys 2 to 1. So I don't know what they're thinking. I think they're going to get thumped is what I think. And the question is, this is probably going to be more, we'll treat it more like a probing attack. the 4 infantry are going to come in, and I should probably roll for that first. I've got I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that means they're either going to try to outflank us and get around us and get around us and take Pella, kind of roll us up from this flank. And if I roll a 2, then they're going to kind of come through here and hope that they can punch through before our left wing closes in on them. There's a little farmhouse here. I don't know how much good that's going to do. Maybe it's like a fortified farm, but given this is modern day, I don't know. Maybe it's a village to scale it up. All right, so 3 and then 4, we're going to kind of pin these guys and send 2 down and maybe do some damage down here. But the idea here is not so much that the Machins have a chance, so much as it is the Machins really want to hurt us. I'm thinking of it more as a punitive raid at this point, realizing that they're so badly outnumbered. And why am I doing that? Well, because I'm trying to keep the campaign fresh. If all I have is a whole series of cakewalks and curb stomps, everybody's going to lose interest. So the Machins are really just trying to do as much damage. In other words, cost me as much money as possible so that when they come back next year, I'm a little bit weakened. So we roll a d6 and I get a 6, and it looks like those 4 infantry are going to start down here, and they're going to maneuver up to make a blocking force here, while these 2 hit our... Oh boy, that's not good. They're going to attack this hill with their 2 forces. Now, we'll see that coming. And so that kind of changes things. They do have 1 unit of horse cavalry, and that means a couple of things. We're going to wind up putting our artillery, so the little box with a dot, that's the artillery for the artillery duel, and that's as far away from the counter battery fire as possible. How many kilometers is this? I don't know, 10, 15. Close enough that we have a little bit of an artillery duel there. And of course, the mounted infantry cavalry is what they got. They're going to come sweeping over this hill, and they're going to lend their support in this direction. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to call this, what do we call mounted? I'm just going to write MTD. And that's kind of what the battle's going to look like when it opens up. So we can do our little thing where we say, oh, you've got 1 unit attacking another unit, and now we aren't really necessarily in a defensive position, so we can roll some percentile dice. This would be a 50-50 chance, except that the Machins have support, except that they're attacking a position that's on a hill, so those cancel out. We're still at a 50-50 chance that the Machins drive this infantry from the hill. These guys are just trying to block, so what we have to look at what the counter is for the blue guys. And I want to figure out, think of this as the first turn, if you will. And we'll look at that. By the way, there's another attack coming up. We'll look at that here in just a minute. So then what's going to happen is, as they're approaching, we realize, we better get these guys down here and down here. And there's a 50-50 chance that these guys are going to be able to make it in time. On 1, 2, or 3, they do. So on a 5, they don't. So on the next turn, they're basically going to be acting as a reserve. So if this is a 50-50 fight, we'll just go north to south now that we know what's going on. Oh, but the artillery is going to lay a preparatory barrage, but this artillery will target these guys. So you can kind of factor those 2 artillery in as well, except this artillery is going to soften these guys up as they come in. So on the whole, what we have here is a whole lot of 50-50 propositions in this first turn, if you're asking me. If you're not asking me, there's a comment section down there where you can talk about these things till you're blue in the face. Do we want to bring our heavy tanks in to support? The tanks are faster, so we'll kind of bring them up a little bit too. For the second turn, maybe they can be ready to deliver the knockout blow. And so we say, well, who's going to do better? Higher numbers are better for Team Red. So on this first one, we get an 0-2. Team Red just gets stonewalled. On this one, or not stonewalled, they get steamrollered. Things don't go nearly as well. So we'll say heavy losses on turn 1. But here, we're going to have heavy losses on this side. And that answers what has to happen next, okay? So that's kind of the northern flank. And like I said, so this is going to be largely a 50-50. Can the mounted keep these guys occupied? Higher numbers are worse for the local boys. So they are. So while the mounted attacking and individually, they're prepped, defensive positions normally wouldn't work very well. All they're trying to do is keep these guys pinned down. So they're pinned down, and that means we have just this one last fight. And as I said, the medium armor is not going to do anything just yet. On turn 2, they'll be able to sweep in. But we have, again, a 50-50 prospect. The engineers may be helping out. I don't know. It's 2-1. So between the hills, the engineers, and all of that, it's a straight 50-50 roll. And so this time we roll a 51%. That means it's inconclusive. So we can bring our medium tanks in to support on turn number 2. So this is what turn number 2 looks like. These guys are going to be driven back. And we're going to let them do that. Well, we're actually going to pursue. Okay, so we will pursue. And we already have, remember, this group back here. So this guy is suffering heavy losses. So we're going to bring him in, and we're going to bring the heavy tanks to support. Okay, so now we're trying to really just destroy this flank, particularly because we got some guys that are vulnerable. And oh, by the way, all of these guys will start kind of sweeping around this way to bottle up in this direction. We'll bring these guys into reserve, but they're kind of holding their position for now. We don't want to risk any casualties over here on the northern flank. What that means is we have another battle down here where these guys suffered. They did really well, but now they're outnumbered. So again, anything up to a 75 is going to be bad news. So we're rolling lower is better, right? So anything over 75 is really bad for us. So a 95 means these guys hold the line on turn number 2. And we have another, see, so we've pulled these guys back. And this unit comes in, and this unit suffers heavy losses as well. If it had been closer to the number, I might have actually put some points on, some casualties on these guys. Let's continue, shall we? So our artillery still kind of cancels out. These guys, is it close enough to lend more support down here? With the support of those heavy tanks, it's even possible we lost some tanks. I'm going to roll, and on a 1 or a 2, so here's what we'll do. We'll say on a 4, 5, 6, we lose 1, 2, 3 tanks. On a 1, 2, 3, obviously we lose none. So what would that be? D6 minus 3. That's how many we lost. So we didn't lose any tanks, but our infantry just took an absolute beating. Down here, our mounted are going to disengage. We have been doing so well, we're going to bring them back. We've bloodied. We've delivered 2 sets of heavy losses, and we still have one more chance at attack down here. These guys are going to do a fighting withdrawal. So it's, again, everything is kind of even. The medium armor has kind of done what they can, and they have to retreat, right? They supported that first attack, but they're not in position to defend. So we pull them back, and these guys are going to try to, should we just do a fighting withdrawal with them too? We'll see how successful that is. I think so. If we're calling it a punitive raid, higher is better for them. So I get a 46. So they withdraw with minimal casualties. Okay, and so that's the result of the battle. The force red is now going to withdraw. Maybe these mounted come down and screen their retreat. So what does all that mean in terms of the campaign? It means minimal losses. Like I said, they lost 1 and then a little bit more down here. So that means that the Makken are going to be available for raids next year. All right, that's what we really need to know. If we did 50% casualties, if we had rolled a lot higher, or I should say if we roll a lot lower on these dice, and we'd done like heavy losses to 2 or even 3 of these guys, then we could justifiably suggest that the fight went all our way and the Makken are going to be out of the campaign for the next D6 turns. That's not the case. They're still available. Not only that, but they did heavy losses to 2 of our forces. So we're going to have to pay some money. That's now 3 companies that we have to pay for. So let me make some notes, and we'll take a look at what that raid looks like over here by Philadelphia. So here we have a similar situation where we're going to do our typical line them up. But in this case, the Puka are trying to raid. They just want to break our lines. That makes for an entirely different sort of game. Remember, the Puka are coming up from the south. They're going to come streaming out of these woods and heading for Philadelphia. Somewhere between the woods and Philadelphia, we're going to meet them in open battle. And that means that if you compare these two maps, this map lies somewhere in here, and it's oriented like this. See, the geographer put a north arrow, right? September 20. What I said 2025. What am I talking about? It's 2955. Lock it down, goofball. I got to check the other one too. I did the same thing up here. I don't even know what year it is. I'm living the dream here. It's 2955. We've got 930 years. And I doubt war will look like this, but it's a fun little exercise anyway. Maybe it teaches us a little something about tactics in our time here in 2025. So that's fine. All right, now as I said, force red. So here's this is a little different. Notice I got a slightly. I hope you can see this. I have a slightly different blue. Do I need to get more light on there? Maybe. I have a slightly different blue. This is the Makan allies. They don't like the Puka, apparently. And then the darker blue, this is, I only had one more battalion. You can see I put a company in the woods, protecting the northern flank. We got another little village, cluster of houses, reinforced farm. Here's our artillery. And I put my cavalry. This is my medium tanks behind the woods. So they're ready to cut off anybody trying to slip by us. I got 2 units of artillery. We're going to blast these guys, man. I'm telling you, we're going to pound them to smithereens. Probably could have used some of these over on the other front. Notice both battles take place in September. That means I don't have any reinforcements. It's me or it's nothing. Now, the Makans have 2 units of infantry. They have a unit of, I said beast. Oh, that's what it was, beast. And then this is nothing. I erased that. The Makans have 3 infantry, 1 artillery, and 1 unit of beast. Well, where are the Puka coming from? And for this one, I did things just slightly different. So what's their overall strategy going to be? I said, look, I'm going to roll a d4, and on a 1, they're going to fork. They're going to go wide east and west. On a 2, they're going to run through the north and middle, and then middle and delay. So maybe they go up the middle, trying to split between the forces, with the second unit coming up behind to try to get through. Remember, they just want to hit Philadelphia and raid it, make enough money to justify this. And then here's middle south. So those are kind of the 4 strategies that they're likely. Well, I said south, but that should be west. So we have forked east and west. They're going to split up. What forces do they have at their command? Why, they've got 4 infantry and 2 mounted. So they're going to send 2 infantry like so. 1, 2. And they're going to keep their cavalry, their beast cavalry, on this hill. Oh, like so, on the hill. They're going to try to lock horns with us and then send that beast cavalry racing around this direction, and they're going to try to outrun the Makan beast cavalry. Up here in the north, it's going to be much the same. They'll put 1 infantry here, 1 infantry here, and then this beast cavalry is going to try to hit this little village. We'll see which way the fight is going, and then they may race north and they may race south. Again, they have to outrun this unit here. So what's our counter going to be? Well, I guess we want to meet them in open battle. We outnumber them up here, but the Makans aren't terribly reliable. In this case, we have artillery. They do not. So when these guys come down, we're going to use our artillery to soften them up. So we already know what they're going to do. They're going to come here and here, and this unit is going to try to race around the side. So our counter will be to bring our cavalry up here to steer them down towards this woods where our infantry can make short work of them. Likewise, we're going to have to, you know what, they outnumber. These guys are going to come down here, and then we'll send this beast cavalry, and we're going to wind up having a singular fight right there. Cavalry on cavalry, with a little advantage to the Makans because they do have the ability to prepare the groundwork, to force them to run through a rain of steel. With me? So let's start down here and we'll work our way from south to north. We have a little shooting match. Let's see what happens, right? These guys are just biding their time. So 47, not a whole lot. Right here, we have the same thing. 93, remember, high is bad for us. So, but because this isn't us, we're going to take some. Oh, this is a 2-to-1. So with 93, even at 2-to-1, this is going to be delay, delay, delay. And then we have one more fight with the beasts. We've used the artillery to target these beasts. So now it's going to be 60-40 in our favor. We roll, we get an 80, and that's still not in our favor. And the beast cavalry is going to, let's say they get through. And with the result of kind of a midpoint, right? 60 is what we said. And they're right at the middle. They're going to take light casualties, but they're going to break through. So we're going to have to. So this is a economic penalty as they sack Philadelphia. This battle continues to rage, and then we can look up here. Now this time I have 2 sets of artillery, so it's going to be 60-40 here, and I roll an 89. That goes poorly for my forces. And I roll a 37, so that doesn't go so hot for them. We will call this, is it heavy casualties or not? With an 89, this time I'm going to roll. It's not up to 90, so I'm going to say there is a 50-50 chance. It's on a 1 through 5, it's light casualties. I get a 1, so we take light casualties this time, which we will recover. Remember, we do have our support guys in the back. But here they're fighting to a standstill on this first turn. So now we have to figure out, does our mechanized infantry catch the beast cavalry? And there is only a 10% chance that the beasts get through. Because I also have these guys. So 43, they don't. Because it's kind of towards the middle, we're going to fight a battle, but it's not going to go well for the beast cavalry because they are going to be flanked by, we've managed to pen them in, and they have to race around to try to get around this way. With our guys shooting at them at 64, our guys aren't going to do much good. So the beast cavalry cut off is going to swing wide this way, and they're going to take, basically we have to refight these two. So we fought to a standstill, and this time with a 67, so unable to pursue. This would be not great for us, so I'm going to say that's light casualties on turn 2. And then the blocking force retreats. And then we have another one where we took light casualties, but with the 32, we do better. So we do light casualties to these guys, and they retreat. And then we have to find out whether, with our artillery, it's probably pretty good. So we have 2 units of artillery shooting at a moving target. Let's find out what happens. Low numbers are good. We get a 58, so they do light casualties and light casualties. But with everybody distracted, these beasts are going to get through. And so that means we are going to lose 4. How do they measure credits in this one? Like mega credits, whatever it is, kilo credits, 4K credits. Alternatively, it's -2 to the population for Philadelphia during the next turn. That's what the raid amounts to. Because we did significant casualties, they're not going to stick around. They're going to spend 2 turns raiding, and then they're going to get out of Dodge. And we're in disarray over here, and they have all kinds of options. If you look at things from the strategic standpoint, so they raid Philadelphia, and then they can, remember, it's just the beast cavalry. So as our guys are trying to figure out which way they're going, they can kind of filter through the hills or through the mountain passes here, or maybe even break through the woods where our heavier, these armored units are not really set up for pursuing mounted, right? We don't have enough fuel to keep them running indefinitely. So the horses, although they're not quite as fast over the short term, we're in pretty rough, broken ground, so these raiders are going to be able to give us the slip. And ultimately, again, what I'm looking at here is with even though we outnumbered them 2-to-1, because they're a lighter mobile force that isn't interested in a specific shooting match, they have an easier time. Their goal is just to avoid open battle, and they were largely able to do that because they had more flexible troops than we did. That also means that I've kind of dialed up the difficulty on this campaign. I've said, look, we're doing really well. That makes for really boring fights. A whole bunch of curb stomps winds up looking like the Super Bowl. How's that for? I mean, it would have been topical 6 months ago. Hey, it was topical when I filmed this thing, okay? I know it's a little late and a little dated right now, but at least this episode has a better halftime show. So I need to step back. I need to take some notes. I need to run the numbers. But yeah, ultimately we did really well over here. We defended Pella. We didn't deliver a knockout blow to the Mockins. I'm not going to count this towards whether or not, maybe they took heavy casualties over here, but they took casualties fighting for us. So heavy casualties over here doesn't make them less likely to try to raid our cities. If anything, taking heavy casualties as mercenaries makes it more likely that they're going to be back next year to demand a little bonus for all of their hard work. They didn't do a great job, though. They let the Puka. Maybe they betrayed us. That's another way to spin this. Maybe they let the Puka through, knowing that it would hurt us financially. And if you don't believe me on that, we can take one real quick peek here at my finances. It costs me $134,000 a year to keep my military going, but I'm only bringing in. Can we zoom in on that? Yeah, I'm only bringing in, in a good year, I'm bringing in, I got to do the numbers live here. 40, 50, 63, 78. I'm bringing in 78. Okay. Which means I'm making 40. I have a surplus of 40 a year, but I got a huge chunk. I got to replace a bunch of companies. And I'm just going to, we'll talk about that next episode. We'll talk about how expensive it is to replace heavily damaged companies. It's not as expensive as buying a whole new one, but it is going to set us back some. We did lose 4,000 on our income. So, and remember, we got our war chest up to 250,000 credits. We're now down to less than 150. So at the rate we're going, we're only going to be able to last another 10 years. And I don't know if we got that in us. If we have another usurper, the big thing that we haven't seen yet is a major incursion. Take a look at this. This is the one thing that I think the last thing I need to show you before you're ready to go off and do one of these on your own. You're ready. I'm kidding. Go buy this book. There's a thing here called Take Several Cities. And who, I tell you what it is. The Tillians and the Popular Front are the only ones likely to do that. This is a major incursion where they bring a near-peer force to do put a serious whipping on you. Let's take a look at the Popular Front. They're the ones most likely to. They bring a brigade. So they bring a full battalion. They bring the 2nd Battalion. They bring tube artillery, the support recovery, an ECM company, field medical. They bring aircraft squadron, popular militia. They are bringing everything. They are putting all their chips down, and they are betting on. Well, I mean, what betting on black, betting on red. They're putting it all down on hit me on. They're hitting on. I don't know what's the thing like blackjack hitting on a hard 14. We haven't seen that yet. If we do, we might be in a little bit of trouble. If I ever do roll 6 incursions in the same year, I'm going to be racing around trying to put out fires. I'm not going to have enough resources. We've been lucky so far. Let's see if it holds. We'll find out if it holds for another year in the next episode. I hope you'll tune in then. Till then, I'm praying for you.